Hello and welcome again. This is the product domain session as a part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit, Illustrum 2023. Thank you for joining. My name is Jeffrey Olette and I will be your moderator today. So this is the final of the product domain sessions, presenting the steering committee's roadmap and activities, and discuss and agree on the mode of collaboration. It'll be led by Michel, and I think some of the other steering committee members will be involved in the conversation as well. The session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions. We anticipate this to be much more interactive. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible, which is typically within 24 to 48 hours. Before I hand it over to Michel, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, the microphones will remain muted for the duration of the session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel, and I'll convey those to the speakers in the room. I would also like to bring to your attention, another slide here, that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and that the process for their adoption is transparent. And standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. So please take a note of the antitrust code of conduct. If you're not able to access the link right now, that's okay. It is always available on the buildingsmart.org website. So I'll hand it over to Michel as I start up his presentation.
Success. Thank you, Jeff. Anyway, thank you for the introduction. So warm welcome from my side to the audience here in the room, and hopefully also a few people out in the internet. This will be quite an interactive session, so you will not learn a lot from my side. So it's a short speech, just a short introduction. It is really about setting up and going into the future, working closer with the local chapters and the product domains of local chapters, but I think it's not a precondition that the local chapter has a product domain. It's more a precondition that the local chapter has people that are interested in something like a product domain. So that would be good enough. You see here the people out of the product domain steering committee that are present here in Lillestrøm. Unfortunately, in this not the latest presentation we have, because on this presentation we don't see Frédéric Grand. He is also here in Lillestrøm. He's not in the room here, but he is in 30 minutes. Okay, so he will join us. Great. So my friends in the steering committee will support me in this session in presenting shortly the roadmap, but then especially afterwards, so we get a little bit interactive. For the people or for the audience out in the internet that are online, as Jeff already announced, so please, if you have comments or ideas or want to bring in your content, use the chat, and then we take it off. We take it with us and put it in also on the flip charts and the whiteboards here. It is all about the roadmap we prepared in the last round about 1.5, maximum 2 years. The product domain, product room in these days made a kind of relaunch by the end of 2019. And shortly after we started with the relaunch, we had then the COVID break that we suffered all about. So therefore, we really could start then with the work on this relaunch and the roadmap and so on in 2022. So it is all quite fresh and quite new. This is, of course, a roadmap that is developed out of the people in the steering committee, and that is probably also one of the problems we have, that we think, well, very good people, experienced people, intelligent people, but of course, this is not the truth, and it's not all that the industry moves and that the industry wants to have covered by buildingSMART International. So therefore, it is a start. And we have on one hand and also the question to you to contribute in what we started, but the larger part of this session will then be what you would like to see covered. So what is it all about if we talk about this roadmap that we have built on? It is all about data and information, and how manufacturers especially can prepare and also publish then data about materials and products to get into the process of building and construction. I think that is a very important part, that we have more this process view on the building construction industry, and less this more specific task view that we quite often see. So one important part is, of course, that we want to talk about machine-readable language of products and properties, and we want to rely on norms and standards that are already there, so ISO and SEN standards. Then what we also think about, that we need most probably in industry domains in the buildingSMART data dictionary, so that you have these subject matter experts that really start to provide content to a tool. The data dictionary is a tool, it's a piece of software we can use, but on the other hand, without content, it's probably not really something that helps us further on. Then, of course, that we map this industrial design, these industrial domains with other domains, so partially domains that are already there. So it could be something like IFC or ETIM, but also then in between the product domains, of course. And that is then also something that we'll talk later on shortly. The governance of data, that we need then also some kind of rules, regulations, perhaps also technology, to grant that there are no ambiguities, that there are no contradictions, and so on, managing this data. Then another huge topic is then how could manufacturers really provide data and information. There we are already active with different topics. So we are on the way to write a white paper. We had a session yesterday, unfortunately not with a lot of audience, but we hope that we can increase the interest and the audience in near future. So that is this kind of guideline for manufacturers. So really a first step into this journey for manufacturers, how to deal with information and data. Because we see that a lot of manufacturers are just not yet mature. That is not a huge issue, but we could help give some guidance that they develop in this direction. Then we are writing on an industry report concerning environmental impact indicators that is already linked to something we did in the past. So with LCA and properties within the buildingSMART data dictionary. So also already an involvement of something we started already. Then we want to bring a template into buildingSMART data dictionary concerning properties and product for environmental product declarations that is on the way. And we are working also, or plan to work on a use case around about environmental impact data interoperability. Then we are planning to set up on a project, IFC for products. That's then quite concrete, also how to work within these product domains and how to really publish then information about products and materials. Then the question is, where do we need then, at the end of the day, this kind of information? I mixed up my notes here. Okay, and look here. We are working on an activity proposal that's concerning a process map and information lifecycle management. That is something that we would like to grow the community working on it, and to bring you in to make the activity proposal even more better, bring more quality in, check it, and then go into the process within buildingSMART to make a project out of it. Then the use case, LCA properties in the buildingSMART data dictionary already mentioned. That is something we already did. That is there. You can use it. An open activity is then also that we have an IDS-based domain for this LCA data. So also a development of a start point we already did. Then we are talking about some basics that we see concerning information and data management. So one part is governance of data, I already mentioned. That's an important part. We had a session yesterday afternoon about it, where we showed or presented also the status of the activity proposal should become then a project afterwards for an industry insight paper that describes a little bit, well, what do we think, what we need concerning governance of data around building smart. Then we have an open topic that we just started. It's about interconnection of dictionaries, so that we believe that there will be more than one data dictionary around. So it's not only the Building Smart Data Dictionary. That's absolutely nothing against the Building Smart Data Dictionary. It's just what you learned also these days, for example, that from the EU Commission, there we have to expect a dictionary concerning digital product passports. So even from regulation, there will be probably all the dictionaries that have to be interconnected with Building Smart Data Dictionary, and representing myself and local standardization authority, we also have our own data dictionaries that has to be interconnected. And then, of course, services around all the standards and all the technology from Building Smart that we think that should also be worthwhile to take a look at it and perhaps develop one or the other services. So that is more or less around a little bit the roadmap we have today. So some concrete activities we're already working with, even projects we want to launch now to go further on and bring content into the community. Well, what is the reason that we reached out to you and asked to come to this session and work together with us? It is one part that we wish that we have a broader community and also local representatives that really read our papers. So the current ones we have, to start with it, that you give your comments about the papers, you contribute with own proposals. That is, well, there we have topics local that we discuss and we think that should be internationally leveraged. And also contribute then with own content to proposals from others. Then the other part is, of course, if we start now thinking about projects, then it starts to become tough because you have to work on it. So then we need qualified project managers. We need experts that can really deliver into projects. And we also need kind of leveraging the network from local chapters to also get projects funded and so on. That is something we think that's only can be successful if we do it together and not everybody for himself. So that is the content or the target of today's workshop. But I want now just ask my peers in the steering committee if somebody would like to add something concerning the roadmap or activities or projects, if I left something out or if I told something that is totally wrong. So I'll give there just a short break and look at my peers. It looks that I did well. Thank you. Good. And then I would like to start with the interactive part, so really to buy you in. So one part is you get an idea about the papers you are working on, the projects you are working on. So please, if you have seen anything that is of interest of you, reach out to John Proctor, who is supporting our steering committee, or even to myself. If you don't have the contact dates, then you sure know somebody that has it, or otherwise just ask around and get to it. So that is really, if you want to contribute to something we are already active, so please come to us and tell us so that we really can involve you. It's not in a first step about your work time or about your money. It's in the first time really about your brain. And do you have some ideas? Do you have some inputs that we should consider in the work we already started? So that's the first part. I think that is something we can do offline. We also plan to reach out to you then after this summit and before the next summit, so that we have one or the other webcast, and then really with interested people go into these activities and get your inputs. And then,
Michel, have you guys been using Miro board for these collaborations?
I didn't plan to use Miro board.
Not today, but I mean in
Oh, in the future, eventually, yes. If somebody takes it over, I hate Miro.
It's what we use at buildingSMART.
I know.
It provides us a good collaboration platform, especially both synchronously and asynchronously. So
Yeah.
We do this with all the domains where even if people aren't able to make particular meetings, they can have us.
Yeah. And also know the value about Miro. So the aspect that I hated is, especially if you do it in sessions like this, it never works because then you don't get access. You need to log in and whatever. But in general, yes, if you work then in between that we publish the papers, we have eventually Miro boards and to put in some content that make, of course, a lot of sense. So what I would like to start is really with a brainstorming session together with you and also the people that are here online and over the chat. And then we will take these inputs and put it in also here on whiteboards and flip charts. And the first part is really that we are interested, are there already local activities or even projects where you say, well, that would be important or interesting to give them an international leverage? So to make them more valuable or to get more input or to get more resources for it, whatever. That is something that is of interest for us to increase the roadmap and bring in also more speed on the floor to working together with you. And therefore, we have, I didn't thought about it, we have, of course, now the challenge that we can't do this verbally because we have to give the mic around. Now we can try, huh? Yeah.
I got my running shoes on.
Good. So then I would really go to the flip chart because I think that's easier than work with Post-its and so on. And if you have ideas, if you have inputs, please let me know and we start to note them. And also online, of course, if you have anything, put it into the chat and we take it over. So it's all about local activities and projects you would like to share. You can even introduce 5 minutes to present your project that all the other get an idea what we are talking about. I think you have one, yes. Thank you.
So my name is Morten West from Austria, from the buildingSMART in Austria, and also from we built a small spin-off from the airport, And regarding product data or products, we have a small project at the moment. That is a follow-up project of the TIMBIM project, which is known, I think, within this sphere. So it was a European collaboration of the timber industry to put data regarding timber products from the harmonized product data into data templates to use them within the digital data flow. So we have a database in Austria regarding timber products. This is generic timber products, and it's about construction components. This database is called Data Halls, and the Data Halls platform provides those components for clients to use in their projects. And we want to provide additionally to the data that is available in the form of PDF or downloads, we want to provide IFC files now to implement right in digital models. And additionally, we want to connect those IFC files with their respective product layers with the BSCD or with the URI called BSCD, where we will host in the future the data that is derived from those digital data templates. This is a project that is also running right now. It will be completed within weeks or months. They are hosted on the Copilot Define right now, but they will be shifted to the BSCD. And I'm going to make a little graph here to show how we want to combine all those generic product data. So I'm going to put away the mic for a moment. So we have
What could be a good expression for the proposal, the proposal that you have? Is this a kind of timber domain in BSCD?
it's we have on the one hand we want to use BSCD as a domain to host this generic product data, and on the other hand we want to provide also the transportation container IFC to use natively in BIM authoring tools to transport the data right into the model and to make it available. Okay, so we have several databases, and that's the interesting part. That if we have this data house platform, so this is called data halls, which provides the construction components, and it has a live connection to another database that is dat, which provides ecological indices. And we want to, and now we are writing live IFC files for those components. That's walls, slabs, and roofs. And we also have a connection to the BSCD, so we have those IFC files here, and we have the BSCD, where we also write directly into. So we have both. We can use the IFC files to model in a BIM modeling BIM authoring tool, and we can also use the BSCD to provide the data for existing models. So if somebody has an existing model and wants to classify their respective model, with the tested components from data halls, they can use the connection to the BSCD. And we also have this, so on the other hand, we have somewhere up down here, we have CoBuilder. And we are linking also the data from CoBuilder to the BSCD. So we are shifting the data templates that we have here. So here we have data templates. And those are based on ISO standards. So is it right, Hans-Peter? It's
I can say it's the industry data templates as well.
yeah. Okay, we have CEWA in between. That's right.
Yeah,
It's-
mentioned say as an industry association which plays a role.
Yeah. So we have also a governing organization, and they are responsible. This is CEWA. So they are responsible for the European harmonized timber construction data, and we have a complete workflow or data flow of generic product data. So we have derived those data templates from the ISO standards. We created those templates. You created the templates, I didn't. Together on CoBuilder. They will stay here, they will be governed. The CoBuilder Define will remain as the governing platform. They will be delivered to the BSCD. They can be used for any purpose. We have a platform with tested and licensed construction components. And they are connected to IFC, and they are connected to the BSCD. They have a live connection to the Ökodat database. So the data is flowing. This will be hopefully finished within the next 2 months.
So if I got it right, I see topics like interconnected dictionaries,
Absolutely.
like an industry domain in the buildingSMART data dictionary, and about industry content that is linked to it. And then also, of course, that's more this export-import case working with IFC.
And the cool thing with the IFC is that those files are natively usable in modeling software. So it's not something that is just to showcase it. You can use it to modify your models.
Can you describe the user perspective, the use case, the process, how a user works in this environment?
So, for example, if you start a project and you have a contractor who says, or you want to have your building certified, or you want a timber construction, you want to gain a specific type of carbon footprint, or you want to receive a specific license or whatever. You can declare in advance, and the designer, the architect, can use the data from Datavault, model within his BIM authoring tool, and can make changes. So you can make simulations with exchanging the respective building components to get better or to get closer to what they are looking for the goal. And then you can get it to the tendering process, and people can try to sell their own products in regards to those requirements.
If I understand it correct, you have the data holes.
Yeah.
There you can produce IFC files.
Yeah.
And do you have then an IFC file containing products, but it's
generic product data.
Yeah, precisely. So you can put that, as I see it, I thought that IFC files was more more project-based, so you need the project on the top.
Yeah.
But here you take out one component.
Yeah.
How?
That's always a little bit the problem, because IFC was not created to transport products, but it can be used. Because the software, the BIM authoring software, is able to just get rid of those annoying IFC project and stuff. Yeah, I know it's empty. We don't have the IFC for products right now, and I just exchanged emails with Robert. But he said it's not yet started, so we will see for that. But
it's also a concept that was a part of the BCF BIM snippets, right? This is you could do these small little partial things, and I think we've had on the implementation side some good examples of that, but we haven't had widespread adoption or implementation. So, and part of it is due to use cases. So.
What I thought about is that as long as we don't have this specific MVD for IFC products, we could maybe use some specific terms or values to insert in the IFC site, IFC project, to indicate a software that this is not a project, this is a product that I'm importing. So it might be.
Another way to do it too is, and just doing this from multiple BIM softwares, is I can open or import the IFC file and say an empty or blank project, and then copy that component information I want or import it into the project I'm working on. So I can still move that information in, even though it may not be ideal to import it directly into the project I have, right? But again, there's also the aspect that I can say, well, I'm going to ignore all of the upper level hierarchy. I just want what the product's giving me.
But it works quite fine so far, so it's really cool.
Maybe what I mentioned yet is the manufacturer. We as an industry provide also the data templates based on the BSDT for how to provide information in an open way for this workflow. So we have, first of all, these generic solutions, components, in a certain system which thousands of companies could apply. And the further you go then in the tender, you can then switch generic product into the specific and get the data perfectly matched with the existing structure. So you have a harmonization of requirements and also performance.
Yeah. And since we are using layered components, so all those wall solutions are layered, we can also include an URI to the BSD to direct to the BSD dictionary of CE1. So for each timber product, the whole list of properties will be available. We would need a specific add-on or something in the BIM offering to harvest all those.
Yeah, it depends on the tool. So we saw today with the IBS challenge examples of some of the BIM authoring tools that were able to subscribe to the BSDD, look for the particular domain, and then have all of the properties available to them, and then they can choose which ones to include or add values to. And then we could also, and this is really the intent of the BSDD API for the BIM authoring tool to say, make the connection to the BSDD, you see what's available based on the domain you want, and then you can attach that to the particular object you're working on or whatever through the object side IOC interface.
I would like to stop the discussion here. Very valuable, but it's the sickness of our industry that we always make very fast a deep dive and start to talk about technology and concepts and so on. And that's not the idea today, but fair enough. So the idea is here. My question to you, Kai, is what is the reason to bring the project in here? So what kind of leverage effect of scale of support do you expect now bring it in contact with the steering committee?
We would love to have this project as a kind of model, how the workflow, how the data flow can work, and I hope we can prove it quite soon.
Like a pilot project.
Yeah, like a pilot project. So that other industries, we have it now for the timber industry, but all those components consist of timber and so many more materials, like the insulation and the cladding and so on. So we would love to encourage other industries to go on and to step in.
And why the product domain steering committee? Well, I see a lot of topics that we have on the roadmap. So interconnected dictionaries, industry domains in BSDD, then industry content, IFC for products. So it makes sense. So it's a real question to you. So is it that you want now to leverage it in other counties, bring more expertise from other counties in, and then go really in a kind of an implementation as a specific use case to show these concepts? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's one idea, and the other idea is exactly the IFC product for product topic. We are using IFC now in this project to do something that it was not meant for, but it works. So how do we deal with this topic? Because this is a specific topic for the product.
So IFC for products should be a project. That is one reason that we're sitting here today, that we also say, well, if that should become a project, we need broader support and a bigger community. All the parts are not yet that far that we could have a project. So what would be a next step, an activity proposal that goes over the steering committee and then into the official process of buildingSMART?
Yeah, we need funding.
Okay.
We need an agreement on that.
Yeah.
If the buildingSMART international community wants to go this way.
Yeah.
This is important.
So that.
Remember, activities and projects can be many different things. They can be use case implementation pilots, they can be industry papers, it could even be a sub-project within the larger IFC for projects proposal as well.
Well, fine for me. I understand the task. So we need then you and probably Hans-Oli, but also the community really to go forward with this and make concrete activities out of it. Thank you. Kai.
Thank you. Morten, cannot. Still Morten, not Kai.
Ah,
Kai sitting over
Kai is
there.
him. Sorry.
But I support it.
Pardon? I add the governance of data, yes. It's another one, yeah. Global. Oh, jeez. Yeah, so I think what Morten presented here shows at least that what we figured out in the steering committee as activities is most probably not that wrong because it fits in activities that we have at least in 2 chapters. Is it Switzerland and Austria, or is also Germany part of it? It's Switzerland and Austria mainly. Okay. Makes a lot of sense and gives us a little bit of proof that it was not that bad what he did. Other activities, projects, ideas you think that we should leverage?
I could say some few words about buildingSMART Norway,
Yep.
product domain, and charge of that. We have focused a lot on activities like having meetings, focusing on different relevant standards, and not that much on specific projects. So I think it's, as you said, not that many people in this room today to spread the word, so to say, to make the content of important standards more available for more people, and also to, if it was up to me, I would change the name to object domain instead of product domain, because
That seems to be a Norwegian idea. Yeah?
it's not only for manufacturers, and we have also focused a lot in the buildingSMART Norway product domain on what does these standards mean for different stakeholders. How is it for a contractor? How is it for a building owner, a designer, manufacturer? So, yeah.
Would it be a kind of a white paper industry inside, the kind of a guidance? So what standards are there and for whom it could be of value for what? So something like this?
Yeah, something like that, and also to see the connection between, let's say, data dictionaries, data templates, login, to make something easy and understandable for non-experts.
By the way, the name of the domain is in discussion, goes in this direction. I'm not that sure if you talk with each other. No? Totally independent?
Can I add another idea here?
Yeah, sure.
Because where we are
Yeah.
working on our, so, okay.
Sure.
Well, actually, it's nothing really I wanted to share now, but maybe in the future, but to give a bit more of an outlook what we are looking for. And if I'm missing here something that is connected to processes and use cases especially. So what we saw in Germany, if we look at the product domain on our side, a lot of people feel a little bit lost. So, hey, what are we doing? I don't know. Collect properties, do this, do that. And we are now starting to really give them a lot more guidance. And guidance based on use cases with the aim to have these use cases defined with properties, with descriptions, and then use these data to fed it into ESDD, into use case management, but also in other standard regulation organizations in Germany, so that our groups will have a more clear defined process around particular use cases. So IDS is a topic that's missing here a bit. But yeah, this is just what we want to do in the future. So I'm not going into details now. But I think so the overall topic and idea is how do these domains, these product domains should work in the country. So about guidance, processes, what is the outcome of this work? That's what we are focusing on.
Could this be also a little bit how we work together with steering committees and chapters, or is it even a little bit more? So, yeah. Okay.
May I can say also something because I think you worked also in the VDI on one of the 11 sheets.
Yeah, very right.
And that's exactly the same direction I'm coming from. So I started in Germany, now in Switzerland, but there was working on the elevator planning, the use case management, or and the requirements and properties. And I think that's the exact same need I was addressing. Or, for example, we are trying now to bring also these guidelines to the use case management, but link it also with this activity proposal, which was shown yesterday about the processes. So I think it's already addressed, and I think we can connect there.
So then it's at least the right approach now to reach out to the chapters and say, well, let's work together. Let's figure out how we progress, how we get speed on the ground, and really start to create value jointly.
It's really easy to talk in the abstract, but then it's hard to understand. So specific use cases, even if it's biting off a small chunk, helps move everything forward.
Yep.
Maybe one keyword here also, if I look at the relationship between the international level and the different chapters, is maybe enablement. So if we could define how, if we go to a country that doesn't have a product or object domain, what can we provide them to ramp them up to be, hey, if you want to have something like this, hey, use this, and then you can offer this service also to your members.
May I ask the question, if you're aware, if we do this more, that then the more mature chapters will end up in work? Because that can't be done by the steering committee. That will then most probably be, well, if there's a mature chapter and then has a use case that is quite well developed, that we bring it into the steering committee, leverage it over the different countries, and then push out a process, guidance or whatever that could fit for all. Because the idea to throw it in the steering committee, they do the work and then they get the magic holy grail is probably not the right way.
I think a lot of work is already done. It's more
Yeah.
about sharing and
Yeah.
maybe then adapting a little bit in other countries, but I think the main work is
Yeah.
done. So I think it's just sharing.
That's good. So for me, it's the same. Just perfect if the work is already done. The only part is really say because I feel this from time to time. So it will not be possible that the steering committee does work for the international community, but it is possible to leverage work and to scale it with the international community.
Just to get it right, I'm not talking about sharing particular use cases. It's more, and there is a lot of data and information prepared. It's more like train the countries how to work on new use cases, how to define them, what are the steps, and that's always the same. Look at the process, look at the properties go in, go out, model, that's it. So not particular use cases, but enable them to do it in a way that can be used in many of our systems.
That's why we ask now what is around, what you think is of value for others. Yeah, that is important.
So I'm going to add one from the United States. So I'm going to put on a different hat right now. Switch it from moderator. So I also lead the technical committee for buildingSMART USA, and another hat on top of that. I look like a clown pretty soon. I'm also working with HDR on the BIM Convergence and Structures project, infrastructure. And one of the major components of our project is the development of a data dictionary for bridges. So we're starting with this initial exchange from design to construction. But a significant part of that is, well, AASHTO is going to have this dictionary start with bridges. Eventually it will expand, hopefully, to all of their infrastructure domains. But the question for them is, well, how do we manage and govern that content? And what we've trying to negotiate with them through the chapter, through the US chapter, is to say, you know what, as the chapter, we would like to do that for you. You, as AASHTO, still have to have the governance and the processes to add and maintain the integrity, or maintain the content in and of itself. But our chapter, we have a BSDD working group, and we actually become the agents of their data dictionary. So we have the technical expertise and the people who actually work with Archer and all of that. And they, much like CoBuilder and others, have the software and the platform that then we take their content and are able to manage it for them. And so, because AASHTO is also one of those organizations where the AASHTO organization is very small and doesn't have the expertise, whereas the work they get done is because they pull people in their different committees from all over the different DOTs. So they really need support and help in doing that. And we're looking at leveraging it as a business model for the chapter to say, well, why don't you come to us, you pay us a fee for those services, and we'll just make sure it's always taken care of. And then we can help them design a governance program, because it may be different for everybody. It may be different for AASHTO than it is for the GSA, because the GSA likes to do a lot of work internal. It may be different for other building sectors and customers. So, I think that would be an opportunity maybe to push that up as a use case for international, and once we get done is publishing that, and then thinking about, because there's been other discussion of chapters becoming that inroad for organizations or companies rather than going to international directly.
Yep. Is there any other input? I would like to switch then next few minutes to the other brainstorming how to work together, but if there are other ideas for project activities.
Hello, my name is Jens Sjøgren. I'm the CEO of Construction Products Norway, also chair of ISO TC59. And I will just follow up the idea you have, Jeffrey, because I think as product manufacturers, we are delivering the same data in tons of libraries and databases, and the cost of that is tremendous. So I think it's wise to think that we based on standards we have developed on data dictionaries, data templates, and also on processes on ISO 9 that we need to develop a kind of common data environment based on open standards. And I think it's a huge actually business opportunity for buildingSMART community as a neutral part to set up kind of services that actually could be a business model on international and also with the local chapters, that they run their dictionaries or some kind of services that is a part of a common data environment for the common good of humanity. Yeah. So that is a potential business opportunity, but of course it has to be aligned with all these technical issues, business model issues, but it has to be, that is because I don't think the future of buildingSMART is to develop just another extension of IFC. We have to do more than that.
And just to clarify, our intent is not to compete to replace people like CoBuilder or others. It's in the US, there's not a lot of opportunities yet, but there's starting to grow demand. So if we just provide sort of a base level, we realize that there's going to be opportunities for private companies to provide more value, and that's fine and that's great. But there's some organizations too in the US, especially those that are public organizations, that have certain rules about vendors and what they do and everything. So we're giving them an option.
Like, to add a question, sorry, Guy, first. Is it about the final service, so companies like co-builder provide, or if you talk about buildingSMART, is it then more about what we are talking in the roadmap about these industry domains in the data dictionary, about data governance there, that you have trust and reliability in this kind of structures and standards so that services can hook in it, or is it really the service itself you would expect from buildingSMART? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yes, please.
I think that we must, because buildingSMART is open standards. And I think we have to challenge some of the software vendors that actually, because for the common good, being a member of buildingSMART is a kind of insurance fee. And actually to be a part of an open real interoperability. So I think that we should develop some services that some of the data software companies like Revit and others are doing today. But to deliver something more on data validation and so on, to make sure that we get real interoperability and also we can document reduction of transaction costs.
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
It's funny because in Germany we started with exactly this idea a few years ago. We call it BSDD data management. So the idea was basically to help public organizations, like I don't know, to collect their data and bring it into the BSD or manage it in some way. Because besides of many other topics, we have one problem in general in the industry, and this is time and money. And I know so many working groups where people are bored or don't have time anymore from their company to be active in there. So we said instead of creating thousands of working groups and buildingSMART again to define properties, hey, it's already there. Organizations have defined it already, and just help them. And if you go one step further, extend it into a business model, I would love to talk with you about the opportunities also for buildingSMART internationally.
I mean, it is early days yet, and like I said, while some may look at it as, trying to essentially provide a service that competes in the market, well, we point to like the data validation service and say there's also a minimal level of service that can be provided to the industry that says, well, here's the basic functionalities, right? And if a third party wanted to come along and say, okay, the data validation service is great, but we can, like saw with Blender BIM and with others, we can build it into our tools. There's a value add as I have as a third party vendor that buildingSMART would never do themselves, and that even as a chapter we probably wouldn't do. So we're trying to find that balance also between what we can even afford to do as a chapter, right? So that business model is important to say, look, we have this threshold, this ability to do it. It depends on our clients. Most likely they're going to be public clients because they have certain concerns. Due to legislation and the way things that work, not just at the federal level in the US, but also at the state level, there's an opportunity for us. So, but it's sort of a cart and horse problem, right? And right now we're trying to get the horse going, so it's John.
John, I'm just following up on the youngest proposal. The common data environment, explain that a bit. Is it a framework or is it actually a service?
I think that is something this room and together with the leadership in buildingSMART International to find out. So because there is a need for open services out there, and we are retyping the same information and this is also about strategic alliances with other open standard organizations like GS1, like OGC. Also, what to do with all the requirements from the EU, what the EU Commission. We're talking about the digital product passports. So we need something, and we need something open and neutral associations that actually could help the industry. And then the commercial companies, of course, can compete on delivering good services and user interfaces and solve real business problems. And then we can do something in the basement or in the foundation instead of everybody doing that in silos. So I don't have the complete solution, but I think this is an opportunity for such an organization as buildingSMART to look into where are we in 10 years, 20 years.
So how many of you are familiar with the open CDE standards that are currently being worked on? Okay, yeah. So I think that plays into your question, John, and what's been talked about here. So you all know BCF. We're at BCF. We've seen it demonstrated. So part of what's happened in the last couple of years is to look at BCF in the larger context, and so both related to IFC, but also as a separate tool and service. So BCF has sort of been rebranded as an open CDE component, right? This is the ability to communicate across systems, across models and across systems, across platforms, whatever you want to call software or whatever. And what they also worked on, and what's another open CDE standard, are what they call foundations, right? So common authentication and sign-in and those type of standards. And saying we're not reinventing them, we're in fact reusing a lot of other standards for authentication and all that. And then the idea is to say the open CDE for documents is the first sort of result of that after BCF. And open CDE for documents says, look, I have a contractor that may have their CDE over here, and I have the designer over here, and I have the owner over here. And they've made a decision that rather than everybody using one person's CDE, instead they all have their data lakes and access protocols and everything, so they can't really do everything in one place. What the open CDE for documents does is it allows anyone from any point of view, whether it's from within a BIM authoring tool or a CDE interface, to actually log into and look in other CDEs for those documents, for those things, right? Eventually, one of the proposals from Finland and Trimble is properties, right? Open CDE for properties, right? So this idea is, I need to find out if anybody has any information on this particular property or property set. Does somebody have it? I don't have it, but does somebody have it? And then I can look across those CDEs to look for it. Now, right now, it's version 1, so it's about looking and being able to access, query it and access it and look at it. The next step is, do I have permissions to edit it? Well, we're trying to do these baby steps. So I think, in terms of CDE, we're not providing the service, but what we're doing as buildingSMART is providing that technical framework and those standards that allows those things to happen.
Maybe you could compare it to BSDD and how, which part of ISO 23386 and 7 which are implemented, which part are not implemented. So you see that the BSDD has the foundation to take care of the end result from 23386 and 7. But as these are process standards, then you need people. And that's more or less the decision on a higher level in buildingSMART. Should buildingSMART have the technical information, or should they also have services demanding a lot of people? So you could not add that kind of functionalities if the strategy is not to hire a lot of people.
So that perfectly closes the loop in a way. So would have been my summary in a way. So it's also kind of evolvement of maturity, so that you have the technology like a data dictionary, then you have then the orchestration of industry domains, then you need governance of data to give trust and security, and then probably the last step is then do you also have services that go even further. And I don't know where the business model starts. Eventually it's with services, so that you really have to go to services for the business model. But even if you grant the governance of data, that could also be already be something that is a business model, because I would trust that people will pay if they have governance.
A question connected hopefully to this. Today, as I see it, there's a lot of product providers that comes together, investigate their products and the properties of their products. And in many cases, what is produced is a dictionary, but it's also a standard. So then you have the problem with the standard and that have the properties, and they can't really put them onto buildingSMART data dictionary. Are there any work connected to that? Maybe it isn't a problem. Just asking the question, because I see that as a problem right now.
Well, if I understood it the right way, that is now really a private interpretation or a private answer, so it's not representing a buildingSMART. But I think that is exactly in this area of an active orchestration of these industry domains, so that there is a decision who provides in what industry, what kind of properties, and what processes are behind it, and then even make these domains in a data dictionary to a standard. And that's all around this governance. That is important, because otherwise, if anybody is able and allowed and free to do anything, then why should I go to a data dictionary? Because then I also could ask my neighbor, and he has also a good idea. I think that if I understand right, it would go in this direction.
Okay, Øyvind Roth, I'm chair of CEN/TC 442 and also ISO TC 59 ISO 13. First of all, I hope in the statute that you also mentioned these EN ISO standards about data template and of course the 12006 part 3 that actually is the standard BSD is built on. It's important that you align your statute with the standards that actually exist, so you don't build new standards. That will confuse the industry. But I would like to take up the interesting discussion with you with properties, because let's say Europe, but I guess this is also more likely. But most of the properties that is connected with the legislation and so on is defined in standards. We have for the products and committees or something in Europe who their work is to define the properties for different construction projects. We have also other design, typical the Eurocodes and so on the design side, which also define properties. These properties should not be reinvented in a buildingSMART dictionary. We need to find an infrastructure that you can have the original definition from the standards and into BSD.
Yes.
And what we are discussing now with both CEN, especially CEN, but also with ISO, is to find a method to get that information open up. It's not an easy discussion, but we need support from the industry that this is needed. Because if we are able to do this, you can take the properties, you can build it in BSDB. Maybe in China or US you have another kind of data dictionary. That's okay, but the unique ID should maybe be born in the committee that make the agree on the property, and this is what follows. So you know that this is the same property from that picture, and so you can, and you need to build this infrastructure. And buildingSMART cannot do it alone, but buildingSMART can support us to make this happen.
So I have an example from the US I just learned about where the electrical product manufacturers and the electrical contractors have been collaborating to figure out product data templates. And I said, and it was a gentleman from a company, he was joining us on another call with another group that I belong to called CPC. And I said, well, do you know about the SEN efforts for product data templates and ISO efforts? And he's like, no. I said, well, this is very typical America though. And I said, well, you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel. What you need to do is you need to become a part of that. I said, through ASTM, you guys can become a part of that and work on that with international partners to make sure that it's fully aligned. Because I told them, I said, the risk you run is that you're going to do something that is counter to the rest of the world, and the vendors are going to, and the software vendors are going to look at you and go, you know, if only a quarter of my business comes out of the United States, you know, how much effort am I going to put into supporting it? So I think that, you know, my goal too, as being technical committee chair in the US chapter, is to sort of raise that level from our chapter to say, look, you're not in isolation. Here's what these resources we have at the international level that can connect you to make you a part of the greater whole and solution, rather than going off and doing your own thing and then realizing when you're just about to cross the finish line, you're in the wrong race.
So I would like to close this discussion here. So one part is, again, our weakness, that we are engineers and always make a deep dive and figure out all problems, and we have difficulty to stay on a higher level. The other part is, of course, what you mentioned before, it's a competition between standardization organization. So always have this funny part, so everybody needs a toothbrush, but nobody wants to use the one from another one. It's the same like standards. So everybody wants to use his own standard. So we will not solve this today, but important to take it with us. And of course, for me, I guess also in the steering committee, we are aware that there are other standardization organizations and existing standards that are good and good enough to use, and we shouldn't reinvent it. What I would like to go further on, so one part, if you have all the ideas or activities, projects, so reach out to us, to me, to all the members of the steering committee, to John or to somebody else from buildingSMART, so that we will get it at the end of the day, so that we can put it together. But the next step is then, and I would like to spend the last 15 minutes really, so what could be the way or the model how we stay in touch, because that shouldn't be a one-off here. So I think we really need this community and this involvement of the chapters, and also using the brains out of the chapters. So what is it? Is it that you need newsletters? Do you need web calls? Do you need a kind of a web page, whatever, so that we stay in contact and in touch, and you can bring in regularly ideas, inputs, comments, and so on. We can share with you. So also in a kind of a brainstorming. So what do you think, or do you have already experience eventually also with all the steering committees or the domains, how we could do this? So what's your wish list to stay in touch and also get value out of the steering committee?
I'm going to throw out there, could we do at least just start with a call every other month amongst the chapters? So I will say our weakness in the US chapters, we do not have a product domain, or we call it committees. We don't have a product committee yet. But I think if you were to establish a regular call, we could probably promote it and generate interest from the US side to get it now. could probably find some people to then be a part of a US committee that could then interface directly. But I think that's one of the important parts, is making sure each of the chapters does have, you know, their little sort of, you know, subject, you know, their chapter version of the product.
No, I think that wouldn't be precondition. If there are people in the chapter interested in something like a product domain, that's good enough. If we organize calls, then we'll need at least probably 2 if we're thinking around the globe, because otherwise people had to get up in the middle of the night. Well, we always have the advantage in Europe that we are not the ones who get up in the middle of the night. But however, yes, regular calls. Then the question would be, if we make these calls, what would you expect? Is it that you provide input and share ideas? Is it that you want to get a brief update what is going on in the steering committee? Because we have regular calls once a month, more or less. So therefore, how often would we do the calls? So a little bit more idea what you would prefer.
I think both are important. Providing a kind of place for the chapter who wants to give up updates and search for synergies, and keeping this kind of the steering committee, getting the chapters up to date, giving feedback on what they propose, etc. I think both are really important. So maybe first part would be kind of a call for the chapter, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks before the official call, saying, well, do you have something you want to share with us? And then we can select, depending how long will be the call, 1 or 2 chapters that will have a place to speak, and then having our update, maybe something half and half, or I don't know.
Makes sense. I have the impression we would have to do it after a summit, because we need time for preparation. So, because after the summit is before the summit. By the way, 1 summit would probably be good enough.
Yeah, I would like to add something about a regional level discussion, because you know, I come from Asia. It's difficult to travel to Europe. I can see that there are some workshops in Europe. I like that, but I can't here. So I think the physical discussion is very important. So yes, we need some regular calls, online discussions, and we also need some physical workshops. And I suggest that we can support some regional panel discussion like China, Japan, Korea, Singapore. We can work together, and we can with the same step discussion with Europe and America. So maybe we can work together.
The idea would then be that the International Steering Committee could facilitate a little bit that we get a kind of regional chapters. Yeah.
So the International Steering Committee sort of provide a template for those meetings and those workshops.
Yes, and the topics.
Yeah. Makes sense. Make a note. My handwriting is perfect. Other ideas? So we have calls, we have in-person workshops, perhaps in regional chapters or kind of regional chapters.
Just a comment. I would prefer to have rather short meetings and not 3-hour meetings or something. So maybe more a focused one, which I fully support your idea. So sharing information, but also collecting or allowing chapters to present, highlight, project, whatever. But maybe say after 1 hour it's finished. If there are special topics to discuss, I think they can be done in separate meetings. That's my feeling I get from all my different invitations, and
Yeah.
I think
It's kind of 15 minutes update from the steering committee, 15 minutes input from the chapters, 15-minute question and answers. And if there is something interesting out of the steering committee or from a local chapters, make a separate call to make a deep dive. Yeah.
And then if regions and chapters want to hold in-person workshop events that are long form, then it's just a matter of making sure everybody's aware of them, what the format is, what the content will be, and supporting each other in setting those up. Yeah.
Question, Jeff. Do you have, do you know, or do you have some experience if there are other domains that are already working in a kind of an institutional way, steering committee chapters, eventually regional chapters, something like this?
So in the U.S., we have a strong airport room and roads and bridges infrastructure. Railway is still out there yet in the U.S. because they're a completely separate entity. So our U.S. committee does interact with the airport domain pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the infrastructure does do regular calls with the infrastructure people. And plus we also have a couple of people from our chapter that are on the steering committee.
Yep.
So that helps. But yeah, those two are the best example in our case because, you know, on the building side in the U.S. it's just so fragmented. We're kind of focusing on infra right now.
Yep.
And airports. Airports have been interesting because we're starting to attract some of the larger U.S. airports. So.
That's probably also a little bit easy because it's a very well-known community.
Yeah.
You know where to go to meet these people.
Yeah.
Probably to the airport.
But other than that, like I said, it would be interesting for us to have some type of product committee that worked with international.
Yep. Any other ideas how we can keep in touch?
How many different chapters do we have in here? I got Portugal, I got China, I got Canada, I got Norway, I got
Germany, Austria, Switzerland,
Italy, France,
Croatia.
Welcome. We got and Lithuania. Yeah. So
quite a lot, yeah.
So there's quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course we're all at different sizes and maturity levels. Totally understood. You know, U.S. has a long history, but we've also had to reboot things, so we're kind of starting again from scratch.
Perhaps so kind of a summary, because also time is going on for me, is yes, we want to keep in touch. I heard calls, I heard focused calls, 30, 45 minutes, then eventually have separate calls to make deep dives. I heard also the interest of on-site workshops working together. Therefore, a kind of a model, could we have a kind of regional chapters, because over the whole globe it's difficult to bring people together in on-site. So that we take with us and generate some ideas how to do it, and then probably also try it out now until Valencia, if we can start with it. Yes.
Maybe it's a little old-fashioned, but what about a blog or something like that? Interesting topics can be published every time they pop up, like small snippets, what some chapter or somebody's doing, and then interested people can just get in contact, get involved.
So we do have the new community board, which might be a possibility. We also have the forums. Typically the forums are more topic oriented and project oriented. With the community, it's more like chapter to chapter, you know, these committees. So I think that's a good opportunity. And yes, we do have, every domain has a news feed. so we can do things through that as well. Yes, there's a good number of resources, we just need
Yep.
to exploit them.
That's a good idea. So perhaps also as a kind of a summary here in the room, I don't know, did we get anything online? Don't know. We read that in our discussions that we didn't took a look at it. But here in the room, would you like to have in future in summits these kind of sessions that is more a kind of an open exchange? So we bring some topics in, you bring topics in, so that we meet once or twice a year, really on site, doing a summit, and we take at least one session just to have this kind of internal exchange, open, not that formal. Is this something you would appreciate? So was it good today? Would you like to copy this in Valencia? I see nodding. Good. Perfect. I think we are quite on time. No, a little bit too early. Now I have to tell something to make the last 2 minutes. Unfortunately, buildingSMART is not that good there.
We have the site of cheaper contact lists, so all of the recordings, like, so we had the beginning slides, so the slides, all the speakers have their contact information on there. But again, so John Proctor is the coordinator for the product domain, so it's just jon.proctor@buildingsmart.org. So all the domain leaders are sort of that funnel.
A good idea from Hans-Uli. If you get out and you want to keep in touch, come to me. I make a picture of your badge.
There you go.
Also quite old-fashioned, but at least a digital picture.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, and thank you.